Ernesto, welcome to ESADE, and thank you very much for joining us and having a wonderful conversations with our MBAs today.
Thanks for inviting me, Ivanka, and thanks to the ESADE.
Wonderful. So, Ernesto, we have a couple of questions for you. Sustainable innovation is finally making it to the headlines, and while many are talking about it, there are not a lot of companies who are actually practicing it. ENEL is perhaps one of the first movers in this space. What does ENEL do that sets it apart and allows it to progress and become a pioneer of this approach?
We really believe and act in sustainable innovation that we call innovability. A new word that we have invented mixing innovation and sustainability. And we learned it from the nature. Every 2 hours we change the whole skin of our lips. Every 24 days we change the whole skin, and every 15 years we change the 100% of our body cells. If we don't change, we die. The markets are changing, the technologies are changing, the products of other competitors are changing, so we must change, otherwise we die. And we can create a real impact, social impact. Because if there is a social need and a business opportunity, we can create a shared value for us, our shareholders, the communities where we operate, and the whole ecosystem that is made with startups, entrepreneurs, independent innovators, universities. So it's a win-win approach. If we don't do, we die.
Where do you start to transform a company of the size of ENEL, world's largest privately owned company, towards innovability? What is the first thing that established companies that aspire to use innovation for sustainability should do?
Our case is particular because we had the chance to have a leading team that was made by former startuppers. Our global CEO was a startupper that has created in the year 2009 Enel Green Power. In 5 years, it became the world leader of renewables. And he created such a company involving young managers that were startuppers too. So they were used to take risks. They were used to act with an entrepreneurial spirit. And they were used to give the example, to lead by example, not saying we want to take risks, we want to act as entrepreneurs, but doing it. And I always quote, no starace, no party. Our CEO is starace. Without having the right example from the CEO, you can't change the culture of an energy giant. The small startup has conquered and changed the big energy giant.
That's really inspiring. What is generally the case for most companies is that they struggle to reconcile the tensions between achieving social goals, ecological goals, and also economic goals. And granted, this is not easy to do, right? How were these beginnings for ENEL? Did you have to go through some tough first times, or was it all kind of smooth sailing right from the beginning?
Was not smooth because when we started talking to our investors and saying that we wanted to switch all the investments in renewables, leaving past plants that had investments in fossil fuel plants, unfortunately the investors were not satisfied. They were blaming us because they were saying that the cost of renewables was higher than the cost of fossil fuel plants. So why should we invest in renewables? And they couldn't accept, they couldn't imagine that in 3 years we could lower the cost of renewables by 30%, and that in 6 years we could lower the cost of renewables by 60%. So every year we were lowering the cost of renewables by 10% each year because we were using innovation as a tool to make us more sustainable. So innovation is the tool, but sustainability is the aim. We wanted to be sustainable from the business side because we were already sustainable from the environmental side because renewables are sustainable, but on the business side, unfortunately on the economical side, we were not sustainable, but we used innovation as a key tool to become fully sustainable. And when you address a social need and you combine the social need with a business opportunity, you create a win-win activity, because you create value for your stakeholders, financial stakeholders, and you create value for your social stakeholders. Because if there is a business need, a business opportunity that can address a social need, you are going to solve a social need. It happened with the providing of cyber optic access in Italy. We started a new co only 6 years ago, and we created a value of more than 10 billion. We have got more or less 2 billion of capital gain in 5 years, creating a unicorn, just addressing a social need, having the fiber optic access. And we are addressing e-health as another big opportunity, monitoring patients with COVID, leaving them at home, and monitoring their vital parameters, and allowing hospitals to leave them at home. This is a social need, obviously, and this is a business opportunity because they are not competitors. So I think that it's, how could I say, a banal thing if you focus it. But understanding it is not so easy.
Understood. Would you say that the times have changed from when ENEL started to focus on innovation for sustainability? Is now a better climate? Are the bars lower to join?
For the climate, barriers are lower, but the barriers that the lobbyists are creating are higher. Because before, nobody believed it was possible, so the lobbyists were not so aggressive. Now they want to defend the status quo. They want to defer the current businesses. But I think that environmental aspects of sustainability are even less important than the social aspects. Because social, ESG, but the most important is S. Without people, we shouldn't have any governance issue. Without people, without communities, without us, we shouldn't have any need to respect the environment. We need to respect the environment because it's our common house, as the Pope wrote. And without us, we could even not take care about the earth. But the earth is very important because we exist as people. So I think that the S is the most important, and that even environment and governance are part of the S. Social rights, respects, and equal opportunities for women. Today is 8 March, so the Day of Women. I think that this is very important, because having inclusion of diverse people, not only women, not only for races that don't exist, because we think that we must integrate races. It's a mistake. There aren't races. They are a wrong word. But sometimes we say, just to underline, that we must integrate diversity. And the most difficult diversity that companies are usually not able to integrate is different thinking. Because they can accept that they have top managers, women as top managers. They can accept that they can have top managers coming from all around the world. But they cannot accept that someone has a different point of view with the CEO or the top managers. And integrating different point of views, different perspectives, eliminate prejudices and biases and other limits that our cultural heritage unfortunately create to us to create real disruptions. We must unlearn.
On that note, what would you say is the next goal for ENEL? Where you've done already so much, what is the next frontier?
I think that every day we must be humble and curious to look for the next one. When an interviewer was making such a question to Albert Einstein, and she asked, what are you going to study next year? He answered, I don't know. Because if I knew, I couldn't call it research. The beauty of research is that we don't know what we are going to find. Research is not pure research, not only pure research, but the next business model We don't know. We entered into the e-health because I had COVID and I had problems and there wasn't any platform. So we entered such sector starting from a real need that I had and the majority of people had to be sure, to be safe during the COVID times. And we don't know what is expecting to us. And the beauty of this is that we don't know.
You have the CEO, top management team with that entrepreneurial, innovator DNA instilled in them. How do you get an organization of 68, I believe, thousand people or about, right, to follow that lead? How do you get that mindset of curiosity and exploration?
Pushing up the examples given by the CEO and the other top managers, and giving the examples also me every day. Be humble, be curious, and not saying me, but saying all of us. And when we say all of us, we don't say our employees, but the ecosystem with NGOs, with social entrepreneurs, with universities, with startups, with big companies as partners. And when we want to create a shared value with all of them, the shareholders too. And if you are humble and curious, you can even create revolution in the sustainable finance, as we did, inventing the SDGs linked bond, and lowering the cost of our interest that we pay. And we have invented the SDG linked bond, having people saying to us that it was impossible to lower the cost of interest that you were paying just because we were sustainable. And we have launched them. Now we have raised from the market more than 70 billion. And such a market that didn't exist before that we created it, it has a magnitude of 150 billion in the world. So inventing a new financial product, it was unexpected from an energy company from Italy. And Forbes wrote an article saying, how could it be possible that an energy company from Italy created a revolution in sustainable finance? It's incredible for them. And it was, Nelson Mandela said that it looks impossible until it's done.
And on that note, I would like to thank you again, Ernesto, for joining us. And thank you for doing the great work to inspire all of us.
Thanks for inviting me. I love ESADE, so it's a great pleasure. It's an honor.
Wonderful. This part was not practiced before. Came naturally. All right. Thank you all.